My name is Dennis Søndergård, and I am a senior advisor for the Nordic Center for Welfare and Social Issues, which is an organization under the Nordic Council of Ministers, and I am responsible for the area of welfare technology. So obviously when I talk, I tend to talk very fast, so if anybody has any problems understanding my beautiful school English, or I'm simply going too fast, just start waving at me or something, and I'll do my best to slow down a little bit. So when I was invited today, I was very impressed with the ambitions and goals that Palle has just shared with you, because that coincides exactly with what we're doing in the Nordic Council of Ministers. It's exactly the same goals. Our ambitions is to ensure that the Nordic countries have a good foundation for working with welfare technology, are better at working with welfare technology. We're here to promote it, and that is done through knowledge sharing and different initiatives supporting governments and municipalities and so on. So I'll try to tell you a little bit more about that. I'll give you a quick introduction to the Nordic cooperation so that you actually know what it is. Not too many people these days know exactly what the Nordic Council of Ministers are. It seems to have been overtaken by the EU, I understand that. Then I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we do in the Nordics and give you a few examples of some of the initiatives that we're doing, which are examples of better Nordic cooperation. So that is my goal for today. Good. So the Nordic cooperation, the Nordic Council of Ministers. So first of all, it's rather old, and it's when you say Nordic Council of Ministers, people tend to think it's just one thing. It's actually several things. So it's the Nordic Council, which is a cooperation between the parliaments of the 5 Nordic countries. So obviously it's the 5 Nordic countries, and apart from those, the Åland and Færøerne and Grønland are also part of the Nordic Council of Ministers, but since they're not sovereign nations, they don't necessarily count as full members, they count as part members. Right. So we also have the Nordic Council of Ministers, which is also used as the common denominator for the whole thing. Nordic Council of Ministers is a cooperation between the governments, and it's not one Council of Ministers, it's actually 11 Council of Ministers, one for each of the areas that we have chosen to work together on, and then one for cooperation. So we also have a Council of Ministers for Nordic cooperation. So what we do, what the Nordic institutions do is generally cooperate, and it's not a voting system or anything like that. It's a system based on compromising. So that would mean that it does take a long time to agree on anything. So everybody has to agree before we can do anything in the Nordic cooperation. We also have institutions like the one I am from. So my institution, the Nordic Center for Welfare and Social Issues, is a terribly long name, is one of the biggest institutions. There are 2 big institutions, Nordic Innovation and the Nordic Center for blah, 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 which I just said. And our institutions are mainly serving the Council of Ministers for Social and Health Affairs, while Nordic Innovation generally serves the development and promotion of industry and export and so on. But we do have institutions, we do projects and initiatives. The main political secretariat is in Copenhagen, right across from the parliament. Right, enough about that. So the Nordic Center for Welfare and Social Issues, we work on behalf of the Nordic governments, obviously, because we're Nordic, and we try to do things that promote the general health and social agenda. So we do that by creating knowledge, underpinning development, creating dialogue, and our target groups are mainly politicians or other decision makers, as well as professionals and user organizations, usually. I'm going to talk about an initiative later, which is actually more at a municipal level, which is the first project we've done that wasn't on a governmental level, but I'm going to talk about it later. So this is generally what we do. So now you're all Nordic experts on 2 minutes, not too bad. This is the organizational chart for the Nordic Center for Welfare and Social Issues. We have 5 main pillars, 5 main areas of work. So it's welfare politics, which is poorly named because it covers all matters of sin actually. So welfare politics right now, it is primarily family politics, elderly politics, and children in foster care and so on. Those are the main three areas. The reason why it's called welfare politics is because it is dependent on which tasks we're given from the political organization. So one year it can be elderly politics, next year it may change a little bit. So right now these are the three main areas. Then disability issues, which is a set one. This is always the same, it's going to stay the same for the next many years. We have a secretariat for the Nordic Disability Council, and in generally what they do is they ensure that the Nordic countries live up to the UN Charter for Rights and live up to international standards, and also try to promote accessibility and so on in the Nordic countries. Then we have drug and alcohol research, which is actually the only research that we tend to do. This is a separate office. It's here in Finland. It's in Helsinki. I don't know which is better in English. In Sweden they make us say Helsingfors. I don't know which is more correct, but that's what we do. So this is a separate office. This is the only separate office we have. It's here in Helsingfors. It's about 12 people who work solely with drug and alcohol research. In our main office, which is in Stockholm, we have about 23 people working there. So the fourth one, the one with all the stuff in it, that's welfare technologies, because I actually knew what to write in that one. So and that's the one I'm responsible for. So we have a lot of projects, all of them trying to promote the use of welfare technology in the Nordic countries. And the fifth one is employment and inclusion. So it's primarily to do with how do we ensure people are included into the work market, both when you get old or if you're socially marginalized and so on. So it's work inclusion. Those are the five main pillars, and the reason why I like to show this one is because if you asked any non-politicians what are the five main issues within health and social politics, I don't think anyone would choose welfare technology to be one of the five most important ones. And yet the Nordic governments have chosen welfare technology to be one of the five main pillars. So we're actually I am quite proud of that. So it shows how highly prioritized it actually is among politicians and among the Nordic corporation. So obviously I'm in a room full of experts. I'm not going to use too much time on trying to explain to you what welfare technology is. I'm just going to say what it is in the Nordic sense, because it's not quite the same in all the five Nordic countries. So first of all, please be aware that the English word welfare technology only works in the Nordic countries. Don't do it. Don't say it in. Oh, there's a UK guy here. It normally doesn't work very well in the UK. You have to translate it a little bit for them, because it's a made-up word that we made up here in the Nordic countries. So normally it's like assisted living technology, health technology, ambient assistant, whatever, all these different terms that covers the Nordic definition of welfare technology. And the reason why we like to use welfare technology is that it's actually a very broad umbrella term that covers more than the good English terms. So that's why we like our own word. So the Nordic definition for welfare technology is technology that prevents, assists, or deliver welfare services. That is perhaps, or at least to my knowledge, the broadest definition of welfare technology that we could find. And the reason why we've chosen this particular broad definition in the Nordic Corporation is not to exclude any of the countries. That would be unfortunate. So because Denmark has a very broad definition of welfare technology, whereas Sweden has a slightly narrower definition of welfare technology, we can't just use Sweden's and then exclude half of welfare technology in Denmark, so we've chosen the broader one, obviously. So why is Nordic cooperation good and important to focus on, to use money on? It's because we have obviously similar challenges, similar healthcare systems, similar societal values. That is actually quite important, much more important than you'd think. The whole idea that our societies are built around the idea of maximum equality is actually quite important when you're talking to welfare technology, talking about welfare technology. So we also have similar national focus on innovation of the public sector. So we all face the same challenges. We have the same Nordic welfare model, which face the same challenges. And we've all identified similar solutions to how to innovate and renew the Nordic welfare model. And welfare technology is a part of that in all the 5 countries. And so welfare technology is a chance to create what we like to call added Nordic value, which is sort of a mantra that I have to say in all my speeches, no matter where I go. It's the Nordic Council of Ministers mantra. Nordic added value just means that all the countries benefit from whatever we're doing. So I don't know if they make us say it so that we believe it ourselves, but at least now I've said it. So obviously, since you are all experts, I'm not going to use much time on this one either, but it's sort of supposed to illustrate the challenges that we face, the reason why welfare technology is so important. So in the middle we have sorry, I should have taken Elsie floors. That was stupid of me. So this is a bed instead. Okay, so the Nordic welfare model in the middle, and then I've categorized 3 different groups. So first of all is the future challenges. This is the one everybody knows about, that everybody always hears about, the double demographic challenges. We get more elderly, more people with chronic diseases. It's all going to go very wrong for the Nordic. That's that one. Then we have the current financial situation, and that differs slightly in the Nordic countries. But what we've seen is that we've all been through the financial crisis. We can debate whether it's entirely over or not, but at least we've all sort of come through the financial crisis, and it's hit the Nordic countries slightly different. So Iceland was immediately hit the hardest. They had a bank crisis collapse. Finland was hit harder than the Scandinavian countries due to the main industries that you had at that time, which was hit very hard by the financial crisis. Denmark was hit harder than Norway and Sweden because of inflated real estate prices. Sweden was hit less than the others. Simply, I don't know exactly why Sweden was hit less, but they were. And Norway was hardly hit at all, mainly due to their black natural resources, which made them pretty safe. And when I say that, that's not even true. So what became apparent when we look at it in hindsight is that actually all countries were hit at a decentralized level. While Norway on a centralized level weren't hit at all by the Nordic crisis, if you look at the municipalities, they were actually quite hit by the financial crisis. And if you go to the Norwegian government's web page, you can look at something called ROBEK. I think that's correct. Is there any Norwegian too? ROBEK. It's a graph that shows you how many Norwegian municipalities are under governmental oversight because of imbalance in the economy, and it's quite a lot, actually. It's right now, I think it's about 40 municipalities who are under government oversight because of economic imbalance. Right. So, financial situation. We've been through a financial crisis. Most of the countries have experienced negative or zero growth. Many municipalities in Denmark, 90 out of 98 municipalities have experienced a loss of total jobs in their municipalities, which is changing the tax foundation. Also, the Nordic countries, compared to other OECD countries, are experiencing unprecedented urbanization, meaning that people move to the capital areas, which is also changing the tax foundation of the municipalities who are not in the capital areas, which is also putting pressure, and especially putting pressure on recruitment in these areas. Then there's a level of expectation, which is a more psychological one. Because we have such a high taxation level, there's an increased demand for high quality services, which perhaps is difficult to meet from the municipal side. So we are, there's an economic law called Wagner's Law. Anybody familiar with that one? Wagner's Law? Good, then I can say anything. You'll believe me. Good. So Wagner's Law states that as your material wealth grows, your demand will grow as well. Makes sense. And the same is true when it comes to public services. We have a high expectation of what we're getting from the municipal side, and it will become more and more difficult to meet those demands. Also, the Nordic countries have never been particularly famous worldwide for family solidarity. We're not like Italy, where people live at home forever. So we like to think that when you go old, then it's a public responsibility, and if you're lucky, we'll come and visit you once a month or twice or something, which is also putting pressure on the municipal side. And the last aspect of this one is health awareness, which is supposed to be a good thing, and obviously it is, but it's also putting pressure on the municipal side because people tend to want to be diagnosed more than they used to. So in just 10, 15 years ago, if you didn't walk right, or if you were starting to forget things, that was just a natural part of becoming old. Didn't matter too much. You'd get service and everybody was happy. Today, everybody wants to know exactly what is wrong with you. Why is my knee hurting? Why is this? And then you get a diagnosis, and then you need a service for that diagnosis. So more diagnosis means more services. So even though health awareness is a super good thing, and we should be glad that we know what's wrong with our bodies, it is also putting the public sector under pressure. Okay, so that was just a lightning introduction to all the problems that are facing us that mean the welfare technology is becoming increasingly important in all the Nordic countries. Any question to the beautiful diagram that I've taken a long time to make? Okay, fine. A quick introduction to the Nordic differences. As I stated, there are slight differences in what welfare technology is in the Nordic countries. So the term welfare technology was coined in Denmark in 2007. It's wildly contested by whom? Everybody wants credit, apparently. So there's different ideas about who actually invented the term. But anyway, it was invented in Denmark in 2007. So in Denmark, it's very well known. It's well known to a degree that perhaps it's been hyped over a 5-year period or something like that. It's a very broad term. It's very close to the Nordic definition, and the motivation in Denmark is undoubtedly economic. We can debate it all we want, but everybody wants cost-benefit analysis. It has to be cost-efficient. We're not introducing anything that's not. So burning platform is the main motivator in Denmark. And compared to the other countries, Denmark are less afraid to talk about this. So in Denmark, it's okay to say, this has an economic aspect also. It might be very good for you, but we can save money on it also. So compared to the others, we are less afraid of talking about the economic incentive of working with welfare technology. Sweden. In Sweden, Sweden is actually the country where the term is less known. Least known was the word I was probably looking for. So least known, but it has gained momentum, especially the last 2-3 years. It's gained momentum in Sweden, but it was still when I talked to the different departments in the government, the social departments and social styrelse, I had to tell them what welfare technology was when I started in the Nordics. So it was not as well known as the other Nordic countries. And also welfare technology is in Sweden, and it was and still is limited to the elderly and disabled. And motivation is never money. Well, it is money, but you never say it's money at least. So it's always quality and innovation, and there's no economic incentives. And if you try to say there is, if you even get a quote there is, if you try to write it, they'll call you up and say, no, you can't write that. So Sweden has communication issues with regards to the real motivations for working with welfare technology. In Norway, welfare technology had a slower start compared to Denmark, but right now momentum is extremely high in Norway. The national project for welfare technology, which is led by KS and Helsedirektoratet, the National Board of Health, has actually generated a huge momentum in Norway for working with welfare technology. It had started already before the project, but it really gained momentum when the project took off. Welfare technology started off as something slightly different in Norway. Norway have a different structure than the other countries. They have 428 municipalities for 5 million people, which seen from the outside might seem crazy, and they should do something about it, because it means there's large differences between the municipalities. You can either have hydroelectric power or oil and be extremely rich, or you can have absolutely no industry and be one of the municipalities in Rubik, under administration. So there's huge differences, and of course they have systems to create higher equality, but there are differences in the municipalities, also the huge differences in the size. And that means that, for instance, assistive technology, which was one of the main drivers for welfare technology in the other Scandinavian countries, is not a municipal task in Norway. It's provided by the state. So since the state provides it and pays for it, there's no incentive to innovate assistive technology in the municipalities because they know they get it for free from the state. So welfare technology was not driven by change in assistive technology as it were in the other countries. Welfare technology started off as being primarily telemedicine and healthcare systems, tasks that the municipalities were in fact responsible for and paying for. And now it has sort of, it's slightly changing to be more like the other Nordic countries. But it started off somewhere different. And also in Norway, quality and innovation, if you talk to politicians, if you talk to municipalities, money is also an issue. But if on a national level, only quality and innovation. In Finland, there's been an extreme, when you talk about welfare technology in Finland, most people will think about IT, e-health, telemedicine, portals, that sort of thing. It's been mostly focused on the IT aspects, and there's different reasons on that. Primarily, the reason is that your government has been supporting that line. And why have they been supporting that line? It's because since Nokia's total collapse, you've had 1 million engineers in this field, and you have to give them something to do. So that's why you've sort of pushed in that direction so that you could have more industry and all those engineers could get some jobs. So there's been a national interest in health technologies and IT technologies. So that's been promoted nationally. If you look at on the municipal side, there's been huge interest in welfare technology, and many municipalities have started working with them, and obviously they also started here, but they're also looking at all the broader parts of welfare technology that the other countries are. Finland also have a lot of municipalities. I don't remember the number. I think it's 330, something like that. 320, not too far off. So also a lot of municipalities. Iceland is slightly different. So Iceland is only 325,000 people, so it's like a big municipality. They've not worked with welfare technology for very long. It's quite new for them. They do look towards especially Norway because they have 74 municipalities for 300,000 people. So they tend to have a lot of state control over issues like they do in Norway. And the national program in Norway has been a big inspiration, and Iceland has just made their first national strategy for welfare technology, which they hope will gain a bit of momentum now. So that was the quick oversight on differences between the countries. Any questions for that one? Anyone disagree with that one? Did I just lie to you all? No? Lucky me. Okay. So just because I've been talking a lot, and I should probably stop talking a little bit, I'm going to show you this video. It's in Norwegian, but there's English subtitles. Okay, enough time wasted on technology. Always the same issue. Right, so what do we actually do in the Nordic cooperation? Sorry about the break. These are some of the initiatives that we're doing right now within the Nordic cooperation. So as I said, it's not just a project, it's a main pillar of our organization, which means that welfare technology will not change as a main pillar. It will remain one of our main tasks over hopefully the many years to come. Otherwise I won't have a job. So the main initiatives that we're doing right now is the Kinect Initiative. I'm going to tell you more about that, so I won't do it now. We also focus on standardization, common Nordic standardization. How do we help the individual governments be more aware of what each other wants on standardization, cooperation before we go to international meetings and so on. So Nordic cooperation on standardization. Then we have a Nordic think tank that discusses different issues and publishes recommendations once a year on that given issue. That is mainly sent to the political level, ministries in all the 5 Nordic countries. I'll also say a little bit about that. Then we have a Nordic working group on dementia and welfare technology, since dementia is very high on the health agenda in all 5 countries. How can welfare technology help in the treatment of dementia? There's no good treatment, but in the delivery of services to people with dementia. Then we have also a group looking at universal design, so accessibility and so on within the disability world. We also do a lot of publications, so we do a couple a year at least. The latest one we're doing right now, we're doing the training of staff and welfare technology. So if we, during our educations of people who are care staff, are we introducing welfare technology, or should we be introducing welfare technology already at an educational level? Are we doing enough? Should we do more? Are there enough offers for education once you're actually fully trained and been working in a municipality for 5 years? If you want to learn about welfare technology, are there any places to go in all the countries, and so on? So there's an interview with different ministries in Denmark and Sweden, I think, and also practical examples and so on. So it's going to be a publication about 80 pages or so on. And then we have recommendations on how to strengthen the common Nordic market for welfare technology. That was the think tank recommendation. Those are being printed right now and will be sent out to all the Nordic ministries. Also, all the publications are available on our webpage, which is nordicwelfare.org. So you can find all of these, if anything piques your interest, on our webpage. Right, so the Kinect project, which I don't like to call a project because it's about not doing so many projects, so probably a stupid name. So we call it the Kinect Initiative instead. Sounds much better, same thing, but different. So when I started in the Nordic Corporation, I've been there for 2 days when the head of the secretariat in Copenhagen visited our office, and he said, Dennis, I'd like to do a large Nordic project on welfare technology. Please tell me what to do. And I was, okay, 2 days in, I'll give you a good initiative to do for all your money. Since I was employed, before I came to the Nordic, I was employed in a municipality, so I thought, oh, that's what we're going to do. Instead of doing national strategies or underpinning national strategies, we're going to do something for the municipalities, those who actually implement welfare technology. The municipalities are the main drivers of welfare technology in the Nordic region, so why not try to support them instead? So that was my main thought. So what we did was we had a look at which issues or problems the municipalities were facing in the Nordic countries to see if they were similar. And surprisingly, they're very similar. We all face the same problems. So the main problem is we love to do projects. Projects are good. So what we do is we find a project, preferably one that is externally funded, because then we don't have to pay so much. Then we participate in the project. When the project ends, we don't really know what to do with the project, so we look for a new project, and then we go into that project, we do that project. When that ends, we don't know what to do with it, so we start a new project. So what we do is we tend to jump from project to project, resulting in very little end product, very little actual implementation being done. And what's even worse is that we don't obtain any knowledge. Or we learn while we're doing the projects, and the projects can be very good, but the knowledge is never really embedded in our organization. It stays within the project group, and if the municipality is very unlucky, the project manager gets a new job, and the municipality has lost all knowledge of that given project. That is very common in all countries. So I like to call it projectitis, because it sounds like a disease, and I thought that was funny. So a project disease, we do too many projects. And there's too much focus on simply doing projects. So we need to overcome this problem. There's also a continuing reinvention of the wheel due to poor cooperation. So it's slightly different from country to country, and it's been improving. The financial crisis really helped us cooperate more than we did before. But there are different reasons why we don't like to cooperate on welfare technology. The main reason is that all 1,200 municipalities in the Nordic regions tend to think they're unique. We have unique citizens. Our organization is unique. Nobody has an organization just like us, so we have to do this project even though 10 others have already done it because we're unique. So that is the main reason. I'm sorry, you're not all that unique and you can actually learn from each other. That's just an observation from the Nordics. Then the biggest problem is actually our common Nordic market for welfare technology is rather weak, which is surprising given that we have similar healthcare systems, and surprising because the market for assistive technology, traditional assistive technology, is actually very strong in the Nordics. We have large Nordic companies that sell in all the countries, like ETAC and Invacare and Handicare, whatever they're all called, LC, Maricare, whatever. They sell in all the countries and it's a strong market. But as soon as something is electronic, IT, digitalized, e-health, sensors, we have no idea how to sell it across the borders. It gets super fragmented. Finnish companies like to sell, or Finnish municipalities like to buy from Finnish suppliers and so on for all the countries. So we have to do something to strengthen the market because it's a main barrier, because each market is not equally strong. For instance, the Danish market is much stronger than the Swedish market. So the Swedish municipalities, if they had access to the Danish market, it would be much easier to gain momentum in Sweden, because they would, when they did a tender, they'd get access to all the Nordic markets and not just the limited Swedish market. So a weak common Nordic market is one of the main barriers for faster development of welfare technology in the Nordic region. So what is it we're going to do in Kinect, the Kinect Initiative? What we're going to do is we're going to try and create a complete process on how to work with welfare technology. So which steps do you need to go through if you want to optimize your chances of your project or work becoming an actual implemented solution? How do you optimize your chance of successful implementation? It turns out that that process has 9 steps. And what we're going to do is, for each of these 9 steps, we're going to do a complete toolkit. So it's a best practice toolkit for each step in the process. So if you've never done a communication plan for welfare technology, then you can go into the Kinect. You can have best practice knowledge on what should you include in your communication plan, how should it look, how should you implement it, who should it be directed at, practical examples of communication plans and so on. So that people who are not as experienced as some of the leading municipalities have access to best practice knowledge. That's our main theme within Kinect. So it's a bottom-up best practice based initiative. We're also going to have a political aspect of it because we are working for politicians, so I have to give them something. And what I'm giving them is a report for decision makers. We're going to collect the knowledge of the participants of Kinect, and they're going to tell me what are the main barriers for working with welfare technology, the main challenges, where are the obstacles. And we're going to collect that in a report, and I'm going to give it to the politicians. And the reason why I'm going to do this is because if Sweden one day sees the light and says, oh, a national strategy on welfare technology, that might be a good idea, then they can actually use our report and see, okay, so if we're going to do this national strategy, which areas are the main areas we should focus on to make life easier for the municipalities? That is the reasoning behind the report side. The reason why I'm after Sweden is I think it's very stupid they don't have a national strategy. So examples from Denmark and Norway have shown the effects of having a national strategy. Same goes for Finland. National strategies help the municipalities. It gives direction. It gives a push, a national push. So it is a positive thing. So that's what we're going to try and support with that one. So this is the Kinect process, the optimal process for working with welfare technology. And when you look at it, it might not look very special. It does contain steps from all innovation processes we'll have to go through. So vision, strategy, and so on. And some of them are perhaps more special for welfare technology. But the process is vision, strategy, communication plan, needs assessment, technology screening or market screening, evaluation model, procurement model, implementation model, and effect monitoring. Those are the 9 steps that would be good if you actually went through or looked at if you're working with welfare technology. This will help you optimize your chances of success within welfare technology. I'm not going to go through all of them. If you have questions, we can take them afterwards. I'm just going to say the main question I always get is, why do you have effect monitoring and evaluation in the same? Is that not the same thing? and it's on different stages in working with welfare technology. So evaluation is if you found a technology that matches your need that you actually like to test, then evaluation is the test of the product before you actually buy it to ensure that it covers your need, it fits your organization. When you do an evaluation, you also see are there any organizational changes I need to be making and so on. So evaluation is testing a technology to see whether it meets the need you have identified and whether it's suitable for your organization. Effect monitoring is because nobody likes to change as much as municipalities. When I was working in a municipality in Denmark, I'm not going to name names, but I worked there for 3 years and I had 7 different bosses in 3 years. So changes are a common thing within municipalities. And if you implement a technology in an organization that changes every 6 months, then you have to monitor whether it still works. Otherwise, you're not getting value for your money. You're not sure that you're actually getting what you thought you were getting. So effect monitoring is to ensure that the technology you've implemented is actually working as it was supposed to. Okay? So who's participating in the Kinect project? So from Sweden, it's Västerås and Göteborg. Västerås are here today, several of them sitting down there. And Göteborg, also the National Authority for Local Governments, SKL, and the Authority for Participation, I think it's called. I don't know the English word for that. It's a stupid Swedish name for something that only exists in Sweden. It's the Authority for Participation, I think. Is that true? Yes. I'm sorry, it's very Swedish name, and as a Danish person, it's not a proper name for a national authority. That's why I was after it a little bit. Denmark, Odense and Aarhus. I'm sorry to Aalborg and Hillerød, you were not chosen this time. Perhaps you'd like to participate anyway. You're very welcome to participate in Kinect. I'll talk to you afterwards. Norway, Lindås, Lister, the National Authorities of Local Government and the National Board of Health. Finland, Oulu, South Karelia, Exote, I think it's called, the corporation in South Karelia, and THL. In Iceland, it's Reykjavik, Akureyri, and the Minister of Welfare. So 10 national authorities, 10 municipalities and 7 national authorities. The reason why we have all the national authorities when we're doing a best practice project for municipalities is to ensure validity. So if you look at the municipalities that were chosen, they're all either fairly large or fairly resourceful or rich, to say it as it is. But they are not representative of the 1,200 municipalities in the Nordic region. So to ensure that the tools we're making in our project also works in the small, poor municipalities, that's why we have all the national authorities, the national authorities for local governments and so on, to ensure that the validity, the broad validity of the project. No stress. So what we're going to do is, what our goals for the initiative is, we're going to do a validated Nordic toolbox to ensure that that's accessible for all 1,200 municipalities. Hopefully it will make entry into welfare to working with welfare technology easier. So if you have no experience, are you going to do the same mistakes that everybody else has? Are you going to do 10 study trips to Norway and Denmark, or are you going to obtain the knowledge from all these beautiful municipalities just by reading about it? Or so this should make life a little bit easier. That's our hope. Also, if we're actually successful in disseminating or spreading the framework, which is obviously going to be the big task, then we've created a common framework for working with welfare technology, including evaluating technology, which should make it easier to share your experiences or your knowledge. So if you're from Hillerød and you know that Oslo is using the same evaluation model that you are, then it's easier for you to actually look at their evaluation and say, okay, we can use some of that in Hillerød and not do all of it yourself. So it'll be easier to compare if you're using the same framework. That's our thought. We also hope to indirectly strengthen the Nordic market. First of all, by showing that all the supplies, the demand side is very much alike. So we are asking suppliers for the same thing. Also, we'd like to help them out by, if we have a common framework, then we're looking at the same parameters when we procure or evaluate technology. If we're looking at the same parameters, then we're asking the same questions to to the suppliers, which should make it easier. As it is today, we have very different focuses, and we also have slightly different market strategies in the different countries, but hopefully a common framework will make it easier to navigate the Nordic countries. That is our idea. Right now, the initiative is underway. The first 7 steps of the 9-step process is almost done. We've done 6 of them. We're doing number 7 now. Everyone can influence the bottom-up project. That's important. So after we do each step, there's an open hearing, and everybody's welcome. And even though we've already done 6 of them, you can still give input to number 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 5. We welcome all the input that you have into the project. It's still going to be the 10 municipalities that decide whether what you're giving us, whether your input is rubbish or whether it's worthwhile. So, but you're all very welcome to give input to the project. Project ends this year, December this year. We're going to do a web page and a publication, and then we're going to do a Nordic tour. We're going to have 2 stops in each country explaining what it is and how to use it and how to implement this particular thing. More information can be found on our webpage, nordicwelfare.org, or you can ask me. I'm here both days. I'm not going to talk about the think tanks. I'm going to jump right to thank you. And if you have any questions, please, if you've actually understood or heard anything I said, you're very welcome to ask questions. Thank you.